Good day and thank you for joining CivilNet. Today I have two guests and the introduction is going to be really long, so bear with me. Doug Blush is an expert in film, editor with 30 credits in different films, more credits in different categories, not as editor. You're a film director, documentary mainly, with a film that has won the Sundance, Oscar nomination.
Two Sundances.
Sundance, only two Sundances and Oscar nomination. And Melik Karapetyan is a person I knew from my student days when I used to go to his film screenings at the museum in Yerevan, a person that I knew as someone who does something with film, not exactly, but today I get to pick his brains. He's a film programmer, as I found out, and producer today. Welcome to CivilNet, and you guys are doing a program that's very exciting. I know some people from CivilNet are taking part in it. They're super excited. It's exciting for me because I love films and it's very important to see some things that being done to that extent. So maybe you could just a little bit elaborate on the program.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm so honored to be here in Armenia. I've been wanting to come here for a long time because in California I live very close to the city of Glendale, which has a huge Armenian population. So I have Armenian friends and I eat Armenian food and I've enjoyed Armenian culture for a long time. And all of my friends back home are saying, oh no, you get to go to Yerevan before I even got to go there. So it's really an honor to be here and very excited to meet filmmakers here in this country who are just really tackling new ideas and making new films and becoming documentary filmmakers as part of a global family of documentary people.
Melik, I was going to ask you for like more of the details of the program. So what's the program concentrating on? What's the schedule now?
Yeah, yesterday we started the program which we call American Film Showcase. It's a program that's supported by State Department, and they are doing that for all world. They are collecting the mostly documentary films, but there are also feature films, and they are making the program for 1 year, and it's traveling everywhere, the different countries. So Armenia doing this program already for time. First time we did in 2009, and second was 2013. The first was at the National Gallery where I was doing the program. And the second was 2013 at TUMO, mostly at TUMO. And now we are doing in 5 different venues. We selected 33 films from the 50 that program offer it. And Doug is the guest of that program. They will be here, Doug and Janet Grillo and Alex Ago. The 3 experts are here for that program.
And you're also working with young filmmakers, a master class that I've heard of that has inspired my colleague a lot. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, it's so exciting to work with young filmmakers and people with new ideas because I teach this class all over the United States and in other countries around the world. It's basically taking the ideas that a class has, the documentaries they're working on or the documentaries that they want to try to work on, and looking at them for their editorial and their story and their characters, and trying to help, in a few days, trying to help make a better story or figure out what we can do to make the film more compelling, more interesting. And when I get to see all these films at once, I get to see all these new ideas in a country that I don't know that well yet, suddenly it teaches me what the country is all about. So in the last few days, I've seen these great stories, and we've been trying to look at them from an outsider's view and an insider's view and try to make each film even better than it already is.
Anything you found inspiring?
There are stories, some stories are about things that I've never heard of before, and some stories are universal. There are stories about children who are overcoming handicaps or issues that they're dealing with. There's stories of culture where music is at play, which I've done a lot of music films. And every time I discover a new culture with new music, I'm just so thrilled because those films make people happy. They help share culture around the world. It's the easiest way to share. Yeah.
And Melik, your perspective on the importance of I understand clearly that we're talking from an video editor's point of view, and the importance for this in Armenia, and culturally the background, where does it go to, how far does it go?
Yeah, at the beginning when we were preparing the project to start, and we talk about who will be our expert, and each time we were doing this program, American Film Showcase, which is under umbrella of the US Embassy in Armenia. This time I suggested that we need to bring editor, because it's the component that we would like to have to improve in Armenia. And what we did call for applications, that if there is young filmmakers, we have young filmmakers who are working on documentaries, they can apply and participate the workshop. So we got about 18 projects, and at the end of the day, 15 projects stay. So we just gave the 50 projects a possibility to stay with Doug for 4 hours every day. So 5 days, 4 hours, it's a pretty long, intensive program. And I was following for these 2 first days, and it's really amazing. And I see how big interest that filmmakers have during the discussions and presenting their own films.
So it's great to know that at least there are 18 documentaries in process across Armenia.
Yeah, and talking about the need, like Doug mentioned it, there are a lot of interesting stories that you can find here, but very often when you are watching the final product, the final product doesn't reach the good point that you can bring that story out. So maybe with the help of the editors like Doug, those stories will go travel.
Yes,
right?
And working in the media, I understand very well you can be a very good journalist or an actress, and at the end of the day, if you don't have the full support and the right person behind the camera, the right person, that makes all the difference. And at least we in the media should understand that very well. Doug, you spoke about stories that make people happy, yet I was going through your films, and your stories stay very close to home. Which I usually expect documentarians to go out of the country, to go out searching, hunting for those more exotic stories, other places. Yours stay very close, yours stay at home, and they're not the kind that make people happy.
Some of them, no, yeah.
Not at all, because you talk about rape in the U.S. military, on the campuses, closeted politicians who work against gay rights.
Difficult topics.
Difficult topics.
I think what's interesting is, if you look, what I do is I work on a really dark or political film, and then I'll choose something that's really enjoyable and light, so that I go from one side to the other, and then I go back and forth, so that I don't get too depressed or too happy. I like to go back and forth and move back and forth. And it just makes for a really interesting career, because one day I'll be fighting for justice for something, and the next day I'll be celebrating with musicians and we'll be making a music film. And I love the contrast. I love not just doing one kind of film. I'm most proud of the films, I think, that have changed laws in the United States, that have fought back for human rights in different ways. And I'm very proud of those films. But I do like to dance, and I do like to sing, and I love films that make people want to do that too. So I'm very proud of those films also.
And this is a question for both of you. Within the selection of those 15 films that you watched, or like the projects that you did you feel that urge for social justice or political change in Armenia, or is it more like I'd like to dance and feel good?
I'm seeing a mix of different films.
Yeah, Doug didn't watch all of them yet, because they are doing day by day.
Yes.
I watched all of them. Yes, there are different topics covering, and also my previous experience with US Embassy, when I was working with at the TUMO on a young documentary filmmakers project, there was a lot of different topics that they're covering, and not easy topics. So it's social issues, it's rights, and many other things.
Yes, well, speaking of the lighter, I don't know if this is one of the lighter, These Amazing Shadows, a film about cinema and preservation of U.S. cinema.
My topic, I like that topic.
I think we both do, yeah. We
Yes.
both love film.
When
very
I
much.
saw that in a list of Doug, but it was after we select him, then when I went deeper and deeper to see what he did, what he edited, and I saw the film, I was immediately during the conference call, I was telling Doug, you should bring that film with you. We should talk about this topic a lot.
So share with us what's your sore spot here. What's your concern? Why such?
Yes,
poor
I will
tower
start
system?
and Doug will continue. Because when I came back to Armenia, I just came with the idea to do my film programming and also film preservation and restoration projects, which I unfortunately didn't succeed a lot on the restoration part, but I did something at least to push that subject. And at that time, I always, when I was meeting the different cultural top representatives, I was talking about and bringing as a sample the registry system that US introduced in 80s, correct? So what they are doing, they are selecting 25 films each year that goes to the National Heritage Preservation Fund. There is a fund, so those 25 are selected to be preserved, and each year there's a special commission, and they are doing that process every year. And that's because the production of films was huge, so it's nice to preserve all of them, but you have to select. You can't do that with a very big amount. So they decided to do 25, and I always was talking about that. Then finally, I meet this film that I see that Doug edited about that, so Doug can talk more.
Well, the real tragedy is that 85% of silent movies are gone, and we will never get them back because they weren't considered valuable. When they were made, they were commercial films, they were you know, all different types of movies, but they didn't think they were that important. The studios thought they made their money, and who cares about movies, you know, they're throwaways. So they would throw them away, or they would burn. The old kind of film burned really, really quickly. And so we lost many, many classic films in fires, beautiful films.
Yeah, because the nitrate.
Yeah, nitrate, very dangerous, yeah, very hard to handle. And 50% of all films before World War II are gone. So that includes all of the great films of the 30s and some of the films in the 40s. And even films that were made that you think would never go away, like The Godfather, is in danger of fading away because it needs to be preserved. And so amazingly, when they looked at the negative for The Godfather, it had been printed so many times for so many theaters that the negative was, the original camera negative was beaten up and really damaged. So this program in the United States puts films on a permanent salvation. Basically they will spend money to save these films and bring them back to perfection again for all time.
So we're not talking about making digital copies.
No,
we're
this
talking
is keeping
about
it on
preserving-
film, yes.
Yes.
It's on
So
film.
this is in reference to, I heard this in the trailer, that they've been loved to death. That's
Yes.
why in such worse conditions. So Armenia has a legacy of loving their Armenian small but yet valuable films, selection of movies to death. I think 25. That's if we do two a year. How many?
It's more than 300 if we are counting the Soviet period till 90, and then it's hard to say how many, but not too many during the independence because the film production collapsed, and then just individually they started to produce. The studio production was gone, so probably 3, 4. But recently people started, because of the digital era, they started to do more films, which we are losing in the quality, but as a feature length, we are getting more commercial films, so on. But for the period of Soviet production, it's the feature films is about 300. But what's interesting in Armenian film production, that first 10 years of production, silent period, from 1925 till 1935, where we got the first sound film Pepo. So 32 silent film was produced for the beginning of the film production in Armenia. If you compare the other 10 years, you will not have the same number. like from
So
90
yes,
till
in comparison.
yes. But plus, what interesting, the first few films, when you are tracking the information, like Namuz, Khaspush, and other Beknazarov's silent films, they were traveling till United States. There was screenings in New York, in other cities of these films. They were going there with Eisenstein films and others. It's so interesting, but the way how we behave to that films, how we preserve them, it's really needs to be improved. I can tell that. Only the Namus was restored in 2006 by Arte, but they did a digital copy and digital restoration. They didn't preserve the negatives and so on a film. And also recently the Martin Scorsese Foundation, they restored the Color of Pomegranate under the name of Sad Nova. They did incredible good restoration, and it's traveling now in
So
festivals.
Post-independence, how many films, feature or documentary do we have on film?
Not too many, and probably a film that I am producing and working for 10 years already will be the last one that we shot on 35 millimeters. But we didn't finish yet because of the financial lack.
Doug, I was going to ask you, this is a generic question, but I have to. Did you watch any of the Armenian cinema films, anything that made an impression? Or
I'm actually starting to view them this week, and Melik had sent me some really interesting films that I can't wait to watch, the collected works of
Peleshan's films.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm by the end of the week, I will know more about Armenian cinema than I've ever known before, so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that actually. The way how we are representing our films, that's why the people they don't know well our films, because we are not bringing them to the good quality of presentation. We have films, we can do at least 5 different programs for international viewers, but we are not bringing them to the quality of presentation.
So it's very subjective, and I sometimes wonder about, Melik, this is again a question to you. Are our movies good enough, or we love them so much that we're blindsided to their, because this is a whole Soviet mentality, this saying of the good old kind movies, which kind of puts everything, stocks everything in a category of the good old nostalgic valuing of a film, which honestly for me at the first period when I just arrived to Armenia was a turnoff. I'm like, I don't understand this good old.
No, but it depends about which movies we are talking, because there is a number of popular films that people like and they can watch and watch and watch. But those are the popular films. Like any other popular films, that doesn't mean that they are really very artworks. But we have real artworks. And at the beginning, the silent era, we have great films that can be competed with any other silent films. Our first sound film, Pepo, it's a masterpiece, but no one knows about that. And Beknazarov's Khaspush, Namuz, Zare, those are all interesting films. What's interesting with Beknazarov, for example, he started to production in Georgia for a few years. Then he moved to Armenia in 1923 and did the film here. Then he did 2 films in Azerbaijan. So he was kind of developing the film production in this region. Internationally. Then he did in Yakutia for the North ethnic groups, very interesting film, Igdembu. But who knows about this film? Like Flaherty film. If you will see the film that Beknazarov did in Yakutia, its quality is so good. It's ethnographic and very interesting when you are watching what he shot there. And that film was in US shown in 1930.
This is what we need, is to study more than just, for instance, Soviet film, because it was so dominant in that Soviet era, in that early silent era. But there's so many great films that were also made within that sphere. Yes, so many great films. And yeah, on the flip side, and I want to say this for sure to all filmmakers in Armenia, my goal while I'm here is not just to talk about films in the past, but also films right now. And I want to see Armenian filmmakers at Sundance. I want to see Armenian filmmakers at Berlin and IDFA and all the festivals around the world, and to get films that aren't just United States films to be in these festivals. The more I travel in the world and the more friends I make in different countries, the more I want to see those films be the new world cinema that comes and gets seen around the world.
Well, let's hope that happens,
Yeah.
and we'll be looking forward to that. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we also thank the viewers for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did.